Hi, Tanya. Thank you for agreeing to participate in this interview today, and it's recording. I'm Elise, and I'm currently a first-year occupational therapy doctoral student. Just a little explanation about OT. Occupational therapists aim to help promote health and well-being in people of all ages by helping them to engage in activities they find meaningful and purposeful to their everyday life. A lot of times occupational therapists are concerned with how illness and injury are affecting your participation in meaningful activities, and we work through the therapeutic use of everyday activities called occupations to get you back to what you want and need to do. So today what we're going to do is we're going to work through the Canadian Occupational Performance Measure, which is also called just abbreviated COPM. This is essentially just a semi-structured interview that's going to help us identify areas in your day-to-day life that you may be experiencing problems, and then just measure how you perceive your current performance and satisfaction in those areas. And essentially, this assessment is often used in OT to help create therapy goals, and then it's used as an outcome measure where we'll come back again and look at the areas you've deemed important and evaluate how satisfied you are with your performance in them after therapy. However, that being
Okay.
said, I'm a student, and so I'm not delivering any type of occupational therapy intervention today. I'm simply just practicing how to give an assessment. Do you have any questions so far?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna be filling out this. So if you see me lean down, it's just that I'm filling this out. We're first gonna
Okay.
go through the three aspects of the COPM, which are called self-care, productivity, and leisure. We'll just kind of have a conversation and see if there are any areas that you're noting you're having problems with. After we've noted all the problems, we'll go back and we'll rate their importance. And then we'll select the top 5 issues, and then we're gonna rate those based on performance and satisfaction. And then if typically this were being done in a clinic, we would then establish a day for reassessment after a certain amount of therapy was given. So before we
Okay.
start, how is your pain today? And will you just tell me a little bit about what joints your arthritis affects?
I would say probably the major areas in my hips, and they're both of my hips. And my pain today is probably between a 5 and a 6. Yeah, I've been moving, today it's already whatever time. And so it gets better the more activity I do.
Okay.
But right now I'd say probably about a 5. And the other area where I really noticed arthritis has set in is in my hands, and specifically my index fingers. And it's not a constant thing, it's a flare up thing.
Mhm.
But it's flaring up right now, and it's not horrible. It's just, it, it's a nuisance. So
Yeah.
I would probably say that's like a 4 or 5.
Okay. And is it both of your hands, or is one more affected than the other?
My right hand is more affected than my left, but I can feel it in both today.
Okay. And just to double check, you're right hand dominant, right?
I am. I
Okay.
am.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start going through the different components of the COPM and just kind of having a conversation about what your day-to-day life looks like and if you're experiencing any issues. So the first section is self-care. And within that, the first one is personal care. So we think about you getting ready for your day, dressing, bathing, feeding. So a lot of times what we'll do is just kind of have you explain what your morning routine is, and then just note if there are any issues in the morning with your arthritis.
My morning routine is pretty straightforward because I'm a stay-at-home mom. So just how my arthritis affects me in the morning is probably just right after I get up. It's very noticeable because I've been very sedentary. Obviously, I've been sleeping. And so it can be painful then. And I'm speaking specifically about my hips. So it takes me a while to, until I feel comfortable. But I'm not, um, I don't need to be at a job or anywhere at a certain time. So I have a lot more flexibility than a lot of people. So I don't have to get ready by a certain time. So in that way, it doesn't cause me a lot of trouble with my getting ready during the day. It's not that comfortable.
Okay. And then the next section is functional mobility. So we often think about going up and down stairs, just kind of walking throughout your house. A lot of times it's getting in and out of a car.
Hmm. Yep. Um, so we have two sets of stairs in the house, and they're long ones. And I certainly noticed it, especially in my hips.
Okay.
And if I'm carrying anything that's heavy, uh, like if I was carrying something down to the basement, or if I'm carrying a vacuum cleaner up or something like that, I really notice it. So
Okay.
that extra weight just aggravates it.
Okay. And if you're in the car, will you notice it getting in and out of the car in your hips?
Yeah, I have like an SUV vehicle, so I have to step up a little bit. And that's what I'm used to. And when I go into my husband's car, which is just a sedan and it's lower, you would think it'd be easier, but it bothers me more to go into his car than into mine. And I think it's just, I don't know what it is, but yeah, I definitely notice it getting out of the car. If I have to go for a long time, like a long ride in the car, that I'm very stiff when I get out.
Okay. And then the final section under self-care is what we call community management. So if you're going to the grocery store, do you notice it at all? Or in your hands when you're carrying grocery bags, into putting them in your car, taking them out? Do you notice anything like that?
You know, because it's just my index fingers, I don't notice it a great deal. I think if it affected more of my fingers, I would notice it. I certainly can feel when I'm holding grocery bags, the strain on those individual fingers. Am I
Yeah.
still able to do it? Yes, because I have the rest of my hand. So day-to-day operations like that, I'm okay. If I was going to, like at home, if I was going to open something, I could really notice it. It affects the how I feel my strength is. I don't know what it is about that index finger, but I must use that a lot when I'm trying to open things. Um, I don't know. Is that what you're
Yeah.
questioning?
Yeah, I'm thinking more just like if there are any errands you're running out in the community, like going to the post office or bringing bills in, if there's any times you're really noticing. But I think you've covered, since it's just kind of your index fingers that you're kind of compensating with other hands. It's not a big area for you in terms of issues.
Right.
And then, so that was all of self care. So then, under productivity, the first one is paid or unpaid work. And I know you said you're a stay at home mom, but is there any type of like volunteering or helping anyone with any type of work that you ever notice? Any issues?
Yeah. It's funny. Today I was helping a friend. She's doing her invitations for her daughter's wedding. And we were making wax seals with a glue gun today for a few hours. And the wax gun you squeeze, I do with my index finger, and it really started to bother me. And it's not even that it's that hard of a thing to squeeze. It was just that repetition,
Mhm.
and it just tightens it up. So she did more of the wax pouring, and I did more of putting the flowers into the hot wax and stuff. So could we work around it? Yes, but I really noticed it. Another thing that I do is calligraphy, which requires, holding a pen, and it's a very exacting type of stroke that I make.
Right.
And it affects my ability to do that for long periods of time. And it's a very slow skill, so it affects it,
Yeah,
because it
you're
takes me a while
noticing
to write.
breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say
I was just
say
saying,
that
like,
again, hon?
because it's such a long process, you're noticing when you need to take breaks because you're not getting
Yeah,
through what you're
exactly.
getting through before you need to stop.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
And then with the next section would be household management. I know you already kind of noted, and I wrote down that in the kitchen, like opening anything, you'll notice it with your index fingers.
Hmm.
But in terms of cooking or cleaning or any kind of other household management like yard work, are you noticing any problems with your fingers or your hips?
Well, if I was digging or something outside, just that repetitive motion, and if I was especially, or if I was pruning something, cutting, I know I would really feel it. It's winter in Minnesota, so I haven't been doing a lot of that. So I'm
Right.
thinking back, this fall and this summer. But yeah, anything repetitive like that where my index finger is going to be involved, digging, clipping, that type of thing. With regard to my hips, I really notice it pulling weeds, getting up and down, even being, if I scooch down for a long period of time, I'm really, really stiff when I stand back up. So that's just a pain to deal with.
Yeah.
So when I'm outside, those are some of the things that I notice.
Okay. How about when you're cleaning? Do you notice any issues like when you're vacuuming or if you have to clean the floors or anything like that? Is that something you're noticing frequently or not too bad?
Well, luckily I don't have to get down on my hands and knees a lot. But if I was trying to clean out something or clean out, say, the back of a cupboard or something where I needed to be down,
Mhm.
I would really notice my hips and just, um, how stiff they get, that type of thing. But for cleaning, there's a lot of workarounds. I think probably the biggest thing I notice is when I have to lift something that's heavier. I notice that specifically in my hips. Hand wise, I could pretty much work around a lot of things. But again, if it requires any kind of strength, especially when I'm having a bad flare up, then it's challenging
Okay.
for my hands. I'm speaking of.
And do you often have to take like the vacuum up and downstairs, or in your house, do you have kind of a vacuum on each floor? Is that an issue you notice?
They all seem to migrate to the basement. I don't know why, but we could have a vacuum on each floor, but they tend to end up in the basement. So I'm taking at least one stair.
Oh,
The main floor is just the kitchen and living room, but to get up to the bedrooms and stuff, then it's 2 flights of stairs, and I definitely can tell when I have to carry them up.
okay. And then the final section under this one is actually school or play, but you're currently not in school and you're not helping any of your children with homework that frequently as a stay-at-home mom now, are you?
No,
No. Okay, so
no.
then we'll go over that one. So then the final section is leisure. And so the first section under that is quiet recreation, which we think of as like hobbies, things that you're doing to occupy your time, whether that be reading, anything kind of more on your own. So what do you like to do
Yeah.
now that
So
you're home?
I've told you a couple of things. I'm a big, I love to do calligraphy and stuff. That's very sedentary, other than what you're doing with your hands. So if I sit for too long, I'll notice that in my hips. I also love to read, and I have to be mindful of which chair I sit in, because some are more supportive than others. And I can really notice if I don't pick the right place to sit
Yeah.
and I sit too long. Um, we My husband and I tend to go for walks. Again, this isn't happening right now because it's winter in Minnesota, but we tend to walk every day for about, we try to go 2.5, 3.5 miles. And like when we first start up, I will really notice my hips. And depending on the number of hills we take too, I'll really feel the strain on my hips. And it takes us a while. I'm going to say probably a week, maybe more, until that becomes a little bit more comfortable. Exercise certainly helps.
Okay.
But if we stop walking for a while, say we leave to go out of town or something, then I'm right back to starting up again when we get back into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And that helps. The next section is actually active recreation. So I put kind of walks in
Oh,
there and getting,
sorry.
you're fine. It's all good. The only other things under active recreation would be like sports, outings, travel. And I know with the pandemic, travel is pretty limited, but like if you were to go visit your kids where they are in college or anything, if you're doing a lot of walking in those towns, will you notice it? If kind of like when you're walking with your
Oh,
husband?
yeah, absolutely. Unless we have been, exercising on a regular basis, I will definitely notice it.
Okay.
Um, and as far as like going, but this is active that you want to talk about. I was just thinking of a car ride going to see um, our youngest daughter, who's 3 hours away. I can really notice it because that car ride is extended. So, I'm really stiff when I get out of the car.
Does it help more when you guys take like breaks while you're driving? Like if you stopped at a gas station,
Uh-huh.
will you get out and try and walk a little bit?
Yeah. And sometimes it's funny because you don't realize how stiff you are until you try to you start to get out of the car and you're just like, oh man, I didn't realize, I'd been sitting in that same place for too long.
Right.
So yeah, it definitely helps if when we stop to get gas or whatever, I get out at the same time.
Or especially like when you go up to Vermilion, which is like a 5-hour drive up north.
Yep.
That one would be a long one to notice it on in terms of
Yep.
travel.
We do notice it. And because it's a longer drive, you know, and but it's not long enough where you need to stop for gas, right?
Right.
So, you know, then we try to just deadhead it, you know, and do it all in one stop. So I will really notice it after a 5-hour drive because we probably won't have made any stops. We
Yeah.
just want to get there. So yeah, that's always interesting. It makes you feel like you're about 80,
You're
80
not.
years old.
And then the final section under leisure is socialization. So visiting, phone calls, parties, anything kind of like that. Do you feel like you're having problems in them? Any problems in those kind of areas due to any pain associated with your arthritis? Or are you pretty well able to kind of see the people you want to see outside of kind of the pandemic?
Yeah, you know, when things are normal, I don't think of it as being a lot of issues. You know, our good friends, the Bukers, who live on the lake, you know, always want to play like yard games or that type of thing. And sometimes I'll notice it when we're, you know, doing whatever,
Yeah.
or, you know, stepping down into their boat or something like that.
Okay.
But no, for getting out and, you know, I'm still able to get wherever I need to get to.
Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back through all the ones you've mentioned that I've noted, and we are going to just kind of look at rating them on a scale of 1, not important at all, to 10, extremely important to your day-to-day. So these are just kind of your perception of you wanting to be able to or needing to be able to do these kind of in your day-to-day life. So the
Okay.
first one I have, do you have any questions before I start? I can clarify that.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so the first one I have noted is stairs in your house, so your ability to functional mobility in terms of being able to go up and down your stairs. Do you think you would rate that where on a scale of 1, not important at all, to 10, extremely important?
It's important. I'd say a 10 because we have 2 flights of stairs and then we have a flight of stairs and that goes out into the backyard from our deck to the backyard. So
Okay.
to get to a lot of our different areas, it requires the use of stairs. And I'm not talking about 4 stairs. I'm talking about 10 to 12 stairs.
Long staircases and probably stairs
Yeah.
into your home from the garage as well.
Yeah, not as long, but
Not
yeah,
long,
there are
yeah.
stairs. Yeah.
And then one we've talked about a lot that I have under functional mobility and I also have kind of under travel is in terms of the car, getting in and out of your car.
It's really important, you
Yeah.
know. So I need to rate it 1 to 10. You know, it's all about the freedom of being independent. So I guess I would say it's a 10. You know, I want to be able to do that and I want to be able to do that comfortably. If it gets to be too uncomfortable, I think that's when people start pulling back and not doing activities. And I certainly don't want to get to that point.
Yeah. Okay. I'll write 10 down for that one. And then the next one we have is under paid and unpaid work. So helping your friends with like the wax seals or helping, I know you do a lot with wedding invitations, how important it is that you're able, not so much the calligraphy, but the other steps involved. How important is that to you?
You know, I actually would say it's probably a 6 or a 7 because it gives me a lot of satisfaction to be able to do something like that. You
Yeah.
know, is it critical, you know, to my day? No. But from a self-worth position, I really enjoy helping people and I really enjoy doing that and I want to do it well. So
Yeah.
that's why I probably would say it's a 6 plus.
Yeah. Perfect. And then under household management, I've got in the kitchen and when you're cleaning, like your ability to open anything. I know you noted kind of some pain with your fingers. How important would you deem kind of those aspects of household management?
You know, it's more of a nuisance. It's not overly important because I have backup. I live with my husband, so he can open things. And a lot of things aren't jar-like anymore. It's like more of
Yeah.
a flip top cap, you know, so it's easier. You know, is it important? Yes. You know, so I guess I put it in the middle of the road, like a 5.
Okay, perfect. And then what about, I know it's winter in Minnesota, so this may not be a big priority now, but just kind of in the grand scheme of things in terms of yard work, how important is that to you in your day-to-day versus it not really being kind of an area of occupational performance that matters to you, something maybe more your husband does, or is it important that you can garden and do those things?
You know, from an enjoyable standpoint, you know, a hobby standpoint, it's important. But as far as, you know, so we don't get kicked out of the neighborhood because our lawn looks horrific, you know, it's probably middle of the road, more like a 5.
Okay,
But from just a personal standpoint and being able to enjoy the limited time that it's nice up here, then it takes on more importance, you know,
hmm,
being able to be out there and do the things. But as a necessity, no, probably more middle of the road. I have
perfect.
help.
And then kind of the last one under household management was you mentioning like lifting heavy things while cleaning or lifting the vacuum on the stairs. How important is that?
Yeah, it's important, you know. Um, probably would say 6 or 7, it's important. You know, sometimes I can even tell when I'm carrying in groceries, which is weird. You wouldn't think that the bags were that heavy, but I'll notice it then. And so it's those daily activities that you take for granted that you just do. So they're important.
Perfect. And then under quiet recreation, this is more so the calligraphy, how, so the first one we did was kind of helping your friends with the other parts of wedding invitations, but then in terms of calligraphy as a hobby and something you enjoy doing, how important?
You know, I it's important to me. So I would say I would put it between a 6 and a 7.
Okay.
Um,
And then how about reading?
yeah, it really sounds like I just have a ton of leisure time.
No, it does not. You're well occupied. That's great.
um, I love to read. So it's important. I'll put it middle of the road though, because I sound like all of my hobbies are so selfish.
No, I don't.
But but just it's just that downtime at the end of the day or whatever. So I look forward to it. Yeah, I put it at 5 or 6.
Okay. And then the last one is walks with your husband. How important is that one to you?
It it's important. I'm gonna put it up there at an 8 or 9. Um, One, we're trying to, keep our exercise routines up, when it's nice up here. Um, so I would hate to lose that ability to just be able to go out for a walk and or to walk as far as we do. I think it's important.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we've now rated your occupational performance in all of these different areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and look at the 5 most important. So what I'll do is I'm just going to read off the ones that have been rated the highest. And if you agree that those seem like the top 5 to you, then we'll move on. And if not, we can go back to the other ones that you've rated if you feel one of those is maybe higher. So right now I've got
Okay.
your functional mobility with stairs in the house as a 10, getting in and out of your car as a 10. And then the next would be walks with your husband, calligraphy, and then helping your friends with wedding invitations. So those are the 5.
I think that's pretty accurate.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the next step is we are going to rate your performance and satisfaction in those 5. So what I'm going to ask is, how would you rate the way you do this activity now for performance? 1 is going to be you're not able to do it at all. 10, you're able to do it extremely well. And then satisfaction is how satisfied you are with the way you do this activity now. 1 being not satisfied at all, and 10 being extremely satisfied. So
Okay.
the first one, I'll cue you again because I know that was kind of a lot. So the first problem we
Okay.
talked about was stairs in your home. So the first thing I'm going to ask is, how would you rate the way you do this activity now? 1, you're not able to do it at all. 10, you're able to do it extremely well.
I would say probably middle of the road right now, just from a pain standpoint. Probably a 5
A 5, okay. And
for
then
my ability. Yeah,
the next part is then, how satisfied are you with the way that you're able to do this activity now? 1, not satisfied at all. 10, extremely satisfied.
oh, yeah, I'd rate it low. I'd go down to a 2 or a 3. I want to be able to go up and down the stairs without dealing with, those types of pains and that type of thing.
Okay. And then the next one we have is getting in and out of your car. How is your performance in this activity currently, 1 to 10?
I really don't have a choice. So I'm going to, I have to do it. So I'm going to say it's probably my ability to do it is a 6 or a 7. I don't know how to incorporate the pain level into it. It's uncomfortable, but I still do it.
Yeah, you're still able to do it, maybe not extremely well, but a 6 because you're doing it multiple times in your day successfully. So that makes sense. And then
Correct.
in terms of satisfaction, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with the way it's currently going?
I'd probably say like a 3 or 4 because I am able to do it. I would like to be able to do it without noticing that I'm doing it.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And then
Okay.
the next one we have is helping your friends with wedding invitations. How would you rate your current performance in that activity?
Well, today was a little bit miserable just because I could only do it for a while. So I'm going to say it was less than a 5. Let's say it was a 4
Okay.
because I had to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed, so it wasn't critical that I helped, but I was disappointed that I couldn't. So I would say I was down at a 2 or 3.
Okay, for how satisfied you were with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably a 1 because
Yeah. You were bummed.
yeah, and I had to stop what I was doing. It wasn't like I could work through it. I just really actually had to stop.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then the next one we have is calligraphy. So how would you rate your
Yeah.
current performance and how well you're able to do, how you would rate how you're doing in that activity now?
So with this flare up, I'm probably at a 5 or a 6.
Okay.
And how do I feel about that or rate that? I would say, low, like a 1 or a 2, because I want to be doing a lot more of it.
Yeah.
And I can't right now. So
Perfect. And then the final one we have are walks with your husband.
so we're not doing a lot of that right now just
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
weather. But if it was spring and we had been walking or we were getting back into it and I was too uncomfortable to do it, well, like I said, I kind of already explained that. I said when we first start out, it's pretty tough until we build up to a certain level of exercise and it gets less uncomfortable. So if we were starting out, my ability to do it is it's limited. So I'd say it's like a 6. We don't go as far. We don't take as many hills.
Okay.
How do I feel about that? Low,
Mhm.
I don't want to have to go through that warming up period. So I'd say I'm down at a 2 or a 3.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That's hard to explain, but
Yeah, it's hard because
as we get,
as you get going, you feel better about your performance and then you're more satisfied with it. But just kind of that process of getting back into it.
right,
Yeah.
right. And like I said, and then if we get out of that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say is if we get out of it, then it's like you're starting it all over again,
Right. And
building up to where it's comfortable.
yeah, and you live
Yeah.
somewhere where the seasons are dictating your ability to do this. So it's not like you can stay
Yeah,
consistent. And we're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's not like
right,
you can go anywhere else indoors, like a gym or a mall, to be doing this. It's pretty limited.
right. And that magical treadmill just hasn't appeared in the basement yet. So
Well, you can tell them that it's limiting your performance and satisfaction in your day-to-day life.
I will. I'll sell them on that point. That sounds good.
That's funny. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to participate in this. Typically what an OT would do
Sure.
with these findings now would be doing the scoring, and then this would help us create goals and create kind of our intervention plan. And then we would come back after a certain amount of time and look at how you feel your performance and satisfaction is within these areas. So that's kind of what the general purpose of this would typically be. But I really
Okay.
appreciate you volunteering, and thank you for your time.
Oh, no